Okay, so we're back once more, and this time, I would like for you to, well, I've posted the handout that you see on the screen, um, and so you have access to this if you want to download it. But let's kind of read through and process the information presented here, and then we'll solve it. This is our demonstration problem for the cash budget. And I've said previously, I believe that's the most important budget in the master document because it facilitates planning um, of to have cash on hand to satisfy any expenditures. Okay. Um, so it gives Trish Morrow owns and operates Yummy Bakery, which sells a wide variety of cupcakes. She has compiled the following data and information in order to put together a cash budget for September and October. All right. So budgeted sales for September are 65,000 cupcakes and 98,000 cupcakes in October. Each cupcake sells for $3.50. On average, 60% of cash are cash sales and 40% are sold on account. The company expects to collect 75% of credit sales in the month of the sale and 20% in the month after the sale. All right. Now we'll pause there and note that 75 and 20 don't add to 100, which means she assumes a bad debt rate of 5%. That doesn't enter into the equation. And it's not pertinent information. I just thought I'd point that out in case somebody was saying, hey, that doesn't add to 100%. You may remember bad debts from 2081 financial accounting. In this particular problem, she has 5% of sales on account as bad debts. Continuing on, all necessary raw materials are purchased on account and paid for 85% in the month of purchase and 15% in the following month. Purchases for September are estimated to be $200,000 and $290,000 in October. Monthly expenses include wages, rent, utilities, insurance, and advertising. All right. Cash balance on September 1st was $6,000. All right. The company has a policy to maintain a minimum cash balance of $5,000. If necessary, the company will borrow to meet its short-term needs. All borrowing is done at the beginning of the month, and all payments on principal and interest are made at the end of the month. Annual interest rate is 7%. The company must borrow in multiples of $1,000. All right. So there's a lot there, but we'll work through it. We'll process through it and figure it out. August sales of cupcakes were 43,000, and raw materials purchased equal 230,000. Prepare the cash budget. All right. So hopefully, if you're looking at this, you've already looked at the brief lecture on the cash budget, and the last slide in that lecture had your basic format, which was beginning cash balance plus cash receipts less cash disbursements. All right, giving you the net effect, and we'll go on and figure out financing from that point. Okay, so before we kind of jump in feet first, let's tally up cash collections because we're going to need that number, and it's going to be a cleaner presentation if we just figure that for the month of September and October before we start with the official cash budget. So we're going to set up a schedule of September cash collections. All right. Sales in September. which works out to 65,000 cupcakes. That's from right here, times $3.50 per cupcake. Okay. Of that, 60% is on cash. We know that because the problem tells us here. All right, which brings in 136,500 bucks. All right, and then the rest is on account. All right. So receivable collections for September. And so let's spell this out. Total sales, right, times 0.40, because the problem tells us here 40% are sold on account. And then we're going to take 75% of that, because the problem tells us in the next bullet point 75% of credit sales are collected in the month of the sale. All right. Okay. We have one more thing to work through before we are able to get total cash collections, and that is, since it tells us that company expects to collect 75% in the month of the sale and 20% in the month after the sale, then in September you're going to collect 20% of August sales, and that's why it gave you this information here. All right, at this last bullet point. So we'll have AR collections, account receivable collections for August. All right. $43,000 cupcakes sold, $350 each. All right, but that's total sales. 40% would have been on credit. We know that from right here. And since it's the trailing month, we're in September, we're going to take 20% of that amount. All right. Okay. And the sum of these three numbers is our total cash collections All right, $216,790. All right, and since it asks for a cash budget for September and October, we'll do the same process for October. All right, so October sales, big month, 98,000. $350 a pop. All right. Cash sales for October, 343,000. 60% of that in cash. All right. Okay, so we're going to compute cash, AR cash collections in October. All right, which is total sales, 40% of that number, and 75% would be collected within the month. All right, so we can compute that as well. All right. And for September, well, that's this amount, but it's very similar to this, only it's 20% of this number. All right. $18,200. All right, we'll add those up, and we get total October cash collections. All right. Now that we've done that, we're ready to proceed on to the cash budget. All right, so let's do that. So I will set up a heading here. All right, for September and October. All right, so we're going to start with beginning cash balance, which is given information for this problem. $6,000 for September. All right. I'm going to add cash collections. which we computed for September, 217,790. So beginning cash plus cash collections we'll call this total cash available. All right. Now we're going to shift to disbursements or cash outflows. All right. And let's start with purchases. All right. And let's think through this. All right. So the problem tells us all necessary raw materials purchases are on account. Purchases are paid 85% in the month of the sale, month of the purchase, and 15% in the following month. Purchases for September are estimated to be 200,000 and 290,000. All right. So in September, the cash outlay for purchases is going to be 85% of September purchases and 15% of August purchases, which that information is down here. So that's going to look like this. August purchases 230,000. And since it's in the following month, 15% is the relevant percentage that we'll take of that number, and we'll add to it 85% of September purchases of 200,000. Alright, so it's a little hard to see, but I put that out there in case somebody wants to look at how we get this number. All right, 2045 amounts paid for raw materials purchases. All right, the rest of the cash disbursements are just given information. So we've got wages, rent, utilities, insurance, advertising. All right, and we can total disbursements. All right. So now we want to compare and actually we need to use let's see, minimum cash balance. There it is, $5,000. All right, so we want to add that here. All right, and those two numbers give us total cash need. $231,790. All right. All right. So we're going to compare cash available to cash needed, right? And we'll either have an excess if we get a positive number or a deficiency if we get a negative number. All right. All right. And so we have negative 9,000. That means that cash available is insufficient to cover the cash needed. All right. And so we're going to need financing. So that's another section we'll put down here. All right. Borrowings. Repayments. Interest. Okay, so you're going to need $9,000 to pay all bills and have your minimum in the bank. So you're going to borrow $9,000. All right, and that's the extent of financing at that point, because the interest comes later. All right. All right, $9,000 total financing taken. And the ending cash balance is going to be the $5,000. All right, and the way we get there is our cash available less total disbursements add to the effective financing. All right, so that's your ending cash balance. All right, and then the process kind of repeats itself. All right, so ending cash balance for September is the beginning cash balance for October. All right, cash collections in October we computed. October was a big month, if you recall. don't need it that big. Bigger than that. Alright, so total cash available during the month of October, $331,900. Purchases. Well, this is going to be very similar to September, but we do have to stop and figure it out. So it is going to be 15% of September purchases plus 85% of October purchases of 290. All right. All right, so purchases amount to $276,500. All of the disbursements are the same for both months, so we'll copy those over. All right, and then we can come up with total disbursements. We do need to add the minimum cash balance in because that's for all months, and then cash need, which is of course total disbursements plus the 5,000. All right. Now here, when we compute the excess, and it is an excess this time because available was 331,900, the need was 303,790. So you end up with $28,110. All right. So you've got an excess. Now's a good time to repay the, and actually let me enter this as a negative since it's a repayment. 9,000. Then you also will have some interest, which we'll need to compute. Now the problem tells us borrowing is done at the beginning of the month and payments are made at the end of the month. So we'll actually have 2 months worth of interest at 7% to compute. $9,000, 7% times well, for simplicity, let's just do 2 12ths. All right. So interest for those 2 months is $105. And let me do this as a negative as well, since it's an outflow. And so the net effect of financing is $9,105. All right. Ending cash balance here, $24,005. All right. Okay. So there you have it. That's the cash budget. We did it for 2 months. There's a good chance we'll see this in free response or an Excel format. Usually I don't ask for 2 months, but I like to do 2 months in the demo problem because it allows you to see the effect of financing and how that would work from month to month, and also kind of the roll forward the ending cash balance being the beginning of the next month. Okay, so we'll stop here and we'll be back soon.